In the distant future, where technology had advanced far beyond anything we could imagine, the human race had begun to experiment with the biology of otherworldly creatures. Lyra, an alien girl from a planet light years away, was selected as the subject of a groundbreaking experiment. She had agreed to this experiment, albeit reluctantly, after years of working alongside human scientists in the hopes of better understanding human physiology. Little did she know what was meant to be a simple procedure would soon spiral into an accidental transformation that she could never have anticipated. The laboratory was high-tech, a gleaming metallic facility nestled on a floating platform above Earth's surface. The room was filled with rows of strange machines, each humming with a faint electric buzz. The air smelled sterile like antiseptic, and the cool, artificial breeze blowing through the vents was always a little too cold. Lyra stood in the center of the room, surrounded by humans, some familiar, others she had just met. They all looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and excitement. After all, she was a rare being, a living specimen from a planet far beyond their reach, and today her body would help them unlock secrets about the alien biology that could change the future of medicine and science. "Ready, Lyra?" Dr. Thompson, the lead scientist, asked in a calm voice, his fingers tapping gently on the side of a console as he looked at her. Lyra nodded nervously, her alien eyes glimmering with apprehension. She had been through tests like this before, but this one was different. It was supposed to be a groundbreaking experiment, one that would change the future of both their worlds. They were going to enhance her physical abilities temporarily, just to see how her body would respond to the infusion of human-made technology designed to amplify strength and agility. "I trust you," Lyra said quietly, though her voice trembled slightly as her heart pounded in her chest. The humans around her exchanged glances, unsure whether they fully understood her species or their reactions, but it was too late to back out now. They had everything in place and the experiment had to proceed. The lights dimmed and a gentle hum filled the air. Dr. Thompson stepped back, gesturing toward the machine in front of Lyra. The machine was a marvel of technology, a huge cylindrical chamber filled with wires, glowing lights, and strange alien symbols that had been integrated into the design. This was where the procedure would take place. A soft voice echoed from the speakers, giving Lyra a countdown. "Beginning experiment in 3, 2, 1. Initiating procedure." Suddenly, a rush of bright blue energy flooded the room as the machine activated. Lyra felt a tingling sensation surge through her body, starting from her toes and spiraling upward, as though something was coursing through her veins, changing her from the inside out. It was an odd feeling, almost electric, as if the energy was weaving its way through her cells, heightening every nerve, every muscle. Lyra flinched, but she held her ground, staring straight ahead, focusing on the task at hand. She was trained for moments like this. After all, she wasn't just an alien. She was a warrior from a distant world, accustomed to the strange and unpredictable. The surge of energy continued, stronger now as the machine hummed louder. Lyra's body tensed, her eyes widening in confusion. She hadn't expected the force to be so overwhelming. Dr. Thompson's voice echoed over the intercom. "Steady, Lyra. We're almost done. Just a few more seconds. You're doing great." But something didn't feel right. The energy was escalating, more intense than anticipated. Lyra could feel her heart racing faster, the tingling in her muscles growing into something more intense, almost painful. She tried to focus, but the pressure was building. She could feel her body reacting in ways she hadn't prepared for. Her muscles were growing more powerful, her skin feeling tighter, as if her very form was being stretched to its limit. "Dr. Thompson, something's wrong," Lyra shouted, her voice laced with panic as she looked toward him, but it was too late. With a sudden, violent flash of light, the machine malfunctioned. Sparks flew from its metallic frame, and the lights flickered. Wildly, the room shook and Lyra stumbled backward, her body uncontrollably jerking from the powerful surge coursing through her. The experiment had gone awry. "Shut it down! Shut it down!" Dr. Thompson screamed as he rushed toward the console. The other scientists scrambled, trying to deactivate the machine, But the energy from the experiment continued to pulse, and Lyra's body seemed to absorb more and more of it. Her breath became shallow and panicked. She could feel her body shifting, growing, changing in ways that were unnatural. It wasn't just her strength that was enhancing. Her entire physique was transforming. Her proportions were shifting, and her features were becoming more exaggerated. She could see it in the reflection of the glass in front of her. The alien features she had once been proud of were now morphing into something beyond recognition. "Lyra, stay calm," Dr. Thompson ordered, though his voice was filled with fear. He had no idea how to stop it. But Lyra wasn't calm. She was terrified. She looked down at her body, her alien form now distorted, her curves more pronounced and her features overwhelming. The once subtle changes she had expected had turned into something unrecognizable. "What's happening to me?" she cried, out in horror, clutching her chest as if trying to hold onto some part of her former self. Her breathing quickened as she tried to move but felt a strange sensation in her limbs. The experiment had altered more than just her body. It had changed her entirely and she had no control over it. Dr. Thompson frantically typed into the console, his fingers shaking. "We need to reverse this. Now." But nothing seemed to work. Lyra's mind raced, her heart pounding harder than before. Her body, now more powerful and more complex than it had ever been, felt foreign to her. And the worst part? She could see the shocked faces of the human scientists around her, all staring at her with wide eyes. They were in awe, but all she felt was an overwhelming sense of embarrassment. She had never asked for this. She wasn't ready for this. As the lights flickered, the buzzing of the machines slowed, but the damage had been done. Lyra was now something else, and the feeling of helplessness began to sink in. What had been a simple experiment had turned into an unintentional catastrophe, leaving her feeling more alien than ever before. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence as Lyra's heart sank further into confusion and fear. Her world had just changed in a way she couldn't comprehend, and yet the journey was just beginning. The room was eerily quiet, except for the low hum of the malfunctioning machines and the rapid, shallow breaths of Lyra. She stood frozen in place, her body trembling as she stared at her reflection in the glass. What had just happened? The experiment had gone horribly wrong, and now she was no longer sure of who or what she was. Her skin, which had always been smooth and pale with a subtle metallic sheen, now appeared more radiant, glowing with an almost unnatural luminescence. It wasn't just the texture of her skin that had changed. It felt different, like it had been stretched, taut, and more sensitive than before. Her body, once slender and delicate, now seemed more robust, her muscles subtly enhanced and more pronounced. But it wasn't just her strength that had increased. Her entire physique had grown. Lyra's heart pounded as she felt an intense pressure within her chest. She reached up, instinctively clutching at her shirt, trying to make sense of what was happening to her. Her body felt heavier, larger. Her clothes, once comfortably fitting, now felt constricting. She tugged at the fabric, but it was as if her very form was fighting against her clothing. The alterations weren't just internal, they were external, visible. Her once narrow waist was now more filled out, her hips wider, and her chest. Lyra's face flushed with sudden heat as she looked down in horror. Her chest had grown exponentially, and she could feel the weight of it, her once lithely body now feeling unbalanced. The changes were too drastic, too fast for her to fully comprehend. She looked back up, her eyes wide with disbelief, her breath quickening as panic began to set in. She could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on her. She could almost hear their judgment without even needing to turn around. She wanted to scream, to run from the lab, but her legs felt unsteady. She took a few shaky steps forward, her clothes suddenly feeling like they were strangling her. The tightness across her chest made it hard to breathe, and she desperately tried to adjust her clothes, but they only felt more awkward on her now different form. "Lyra, are you okay?" Dr. Thompson's voice was soft, but there was a sharp edge of concern to it. He had been frantically typing at the console, trying to reverse the malfunction. But his words fell on deaf ears as Lyra struggled to control her breathing. She was no longer just an alien girl from a distant world. She was now something different, something she didn't recognize. Lyra turned slowly, her hands still clutching her shirt, and met the eyes of the scientists in the room. They were staring at her, some with wide, horrified eyes, others with fascination. Some were whispering to each other, trying to understand what had gone wrong, while others simply stood in stunned silence. But no one seemed to know what to do. The experiment had gone beyond their control. You said this would be temporary. Lyra's voice trembled as she spoke, barely above a whisper. You said it wouldn't change me like this. Dr. Thompson stepped forward, his face full of regret. We never anticipated this level of reaction, he said, his voice strained. This was supposed to be a simple enhancement, temporary, harmless. We didn't expect such a severe alteration. Lyra couldn't look at him. She could hear the sincerity in his voice, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was what she had become. She took another step back, nearly stumbling as her new, enhanced body seemed to throw her off balance. She felt like a stranger in her own skin. I didn't ask for this, she whispered, her voice cracking. The words hung in the air, thick, with the weight of her shame. Dr. Thompson, visibly shaken, reached for her arm, his grip gentle but firm. We'll find a way to reverse it. We just need to stabilize the equipment. This was a malfunction. We'll fix it, I promise. But Lyra didn't want to hear it. She wasn't sure what she wanted anymore. She had come to this experiment with hope, with the desire to help humans understand her world, and now she didn't know what she was supposed to be. She wasn't sure if she could trust them to fix it, and even if they could, what would that do to her? Would she ever be the same again? With trembling hands, she slowly pulled away from Dr. Thompson, stumbling toward the exit of the lab. The doors slid open automatically as she approached, but she paused in the doorway, glancing back at the scientists, who were still hovering around the malfunctioning equipment. The shame, the embarrassment, she could feel it deep within her, chest suffocating her. The looks on their faces, the whispers between them, it all felt like a spotlight shining directly on her flaws. She didn't belong here anymore. She didn't belong anywhere. Lyra, Dr. Thompson called. But she didn't turn back. She could hear the sadness in his voice, but she didn't care. She needed to get away, to think, to try and process what had just happened. Her feet carried her down the long metallic hallways, but each step felt heavy, almost as if her body was moving against her will. She could feel every shift in her body, every change that had come with the experiment. She hated it. She hated the way she felt so out of control. As she walked, she passed other humans, some of them dressed in lab coats, others in more casual attire, but all of them stopped and stared as she passed. Lyra's cheeks burned, and she wrapped her arms around her torso in an attempt to hide herself, as if she could somehow erase the changes that were so obvious. But it was no use. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape her new reality. She finally reached a small alcove at the end of the hall, away from the prying eyes of the lab. There she collapsed to the floor, her knees giving out beneath her. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had always been strong. She had always believed that she could face anything but this. This wasn't just a physical transformation. It was an emotional one, too. Lyra felt lost, alien, unwanted. Her body no longer felt like hers, and she wasn't sure how to find her way back to who she used to be. And so, there she sat, in that cold corner of the lab, feeling more alone than she ever had before. The unexpected transformation wasn't just changing her body, it was changing her very sense of self. And in that moment, Lyra wondered, would she ever find a way to accept what had happened? Or would she forever be haunted by the girl she had been before the accident? Lyra sat alone in the alcove, her head in her hands, trying to block out the overwhelming flood of emotions that consumed her. The lab had grown eerily quiet after her departure, and she couldn't help but wonder what the humans in the facility were saying about her. the whispers, the gazes. She could feel them all even though she was out of sight. She had never felt more vulnerable in her entire life. The alien world she had once embraced, the body that had always defined her, was no longer hers. It felt foreign, strange, and out of control. Her once sleek, agile frame had now transformed into something larger, more powerful, and she could feel every single change as though it was a constant reminder that she was no longer the person she had been before. Every small movement she made in her new body felt clumsy, as if her muscles were too big, her limbs too stiff. The weight of her chest, an overwhelming and foreign sensation, made her feel unbalanced. The once light fabrics of her clothes now felt suffocating, the tightness across her chest making it hard to breathe, let alone move with any sort of grace. She had been fine before. She had accepted her form, however different it may have seemed to humans. But now, she hated the way she looked, hated the way everything about her had changed without her consent. The door to the alcove suddenly opened, and Lyra flinched, looking up quickly, her heart racing. Dr. Thompson stepped inside, his eyes full of concern, but there was a hesitation in his step as he approached her. "Lyra, please, you don't need to hide away like this," he said gently, his voice full of regret. "We're working on a solution. I know it's a lot to take in right now, but I don't want to hear it." She cut him off, her voice sharp. She stood up abruptly, trying to regain some semblance of control over her emotions. The sudden movement made her feel disoriented, and she stumbled, her large frame feeling like it was moving too quickly for her to catch up with. She steadied herself against the wall, her breathing coming in short gasps. "You don't get it, do you?" she whispered, her eyes brimming with anger and frustration. "You can't just fix this. I feel like I'm not even me anymore. Look at me." She motioned toward her body, her voice breaking. "I don't even recognize myself. You changed everything and you don't even understand how much it hurts." Dr. Thompson took a step back, visibly pained. "Lyra, I understand you're upset, but this isn't permanent. We'll find a way to reverse it. You don't have to live like this." She shook her head bitterly, her hands clasped tightly over her chest. "I don't care about reversing it. You don't get it. This change. It's not just physical. It's like I'm someone else. And what's worse is everyone is staring at me, judging me. I can feel it." Her voice cracked as she finally let the tears fall. She couldn't hold them back anymore. All the embarrassment she had been holding inside came rushing out in a torrent of frustration and helplessness. She felt like she was suffocating in her new skin. "I don't belong here anymore. No one looks at me the same way," she whispered, wiping her eyes quickly. "They see this thing that's been created, not me. It's like I'm a freak." Dr. Thompson took a step forward, his hand outstretched, though he hesitated before reaching out to her. "Lyra, listen to me. You're not a freak. You're just going through something difficult right now, but you're still you. This body doesn't change who you are inside." Lyra let out a bitter laugh, wiping away another tear. "Do you know how it feels? To walk into a room and feel everyone's eyes on you? To have them whisper about you when you know they're thinking, 'What happened to her?' It feels like I don't even belong here anymore." She closed her eyes, her emotions overtaking her once again. "I can't even walk down the hall without feeling like I'm being judged. How am I supposed to face anyone when I don't even recognize myself? I'm a mess." Dr. Thompson's expression softened, and he gave her a moment to collect herself. "I know it's hard," he said, his voice quiet. "But you're not alone in this. We'll figure it out. We'll help you. This isn't your fault." Lyra stood up straighter, brushing the tears away from her face. "I know you mean well," she said, her voice more composed now, though the pain still lingered in her tone. "But this isn't just about fixing the experiment. This is about me, about who I am now. I don't know how to live like this. I don't know how to walk out into the world and feel normal again." The silence between them was heavy. Lyra's mind raced, the thoughts swirling faster than she could keep up with. Her mind returned to the faces of the humans she had passed earlier, their stares, their judgment. She had felt every single gaze, every whisper, every moment of discomfort in the pit of her stomach. The way they looked at her as if she were something alien, not just because she was from another planet, but because of her body, because of the transformation that had taken place. Maybe it's better if I leave, Lyra muttered under her breath. Maybe it's better if I just disappear. Dr. Thompson quickly reached out, his hand gently grabbing her arm. No, Lyra, please don't say that. We're here for you. You don't have to go through this alone. But Lyra pulled away from him, her heart heavy with the weight of her emotions. I don't know if I can be around people anymore, Dr. Thompson. I can't bear to see their eyes on me. I feel like I'm not even the same person anymore. Maybe that's because I'm not. She turned away from him, her gaze falling to the floor. I'm sorry, but I just need some time alone. Dr. Thompson stood there for a moment, watching as she retreated further into herself. He didn't have the answers. He didn't know how to fix what had been broken. But he knew one thing. Lyra wasn't just a test subject, and she wasn't just a physical being. She was a person, and she needed to feel understood, not isolated. And in that moment, he realized that this wasn't just about reversing the transformation. It was about helping Lyra find herself again. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty and self-doubt. Lyra remained distant, locked away in a quiet corner of the facility where she couldn't feel the weight of people's stares. She had become a prisoner of her own transformation, her body a constant reminder of the lab experiment gone wrong. The glow of her skin seemed to fade, not from any physical change, but from the way she felt inside. Dull, disconnected, and out of place. She had tried to stay away from the others, avoiding the scientists who had once shown her kindness. She didn't want to face them. How could she? They were the ones who had caused this, the ones who had turned her world upside. Every interaction felt like a constant reminder of her discomfort, her humiliation, and her growing sense of alienation. No matter how much they promised to fix it, the damage had already been done, or so she thought. It was on the 4th day of isolation when Lyra found herself wandering down the same cold, sterile halls of the facility, her steps slow and heavy. Her thoughts were clouded, a constant swirl of questions and frustrations. What had she become? Would she ever be able to live like this? Could she ever learn to accept herself again? As she passed by a large observation window, Lyra's eyes caught her own reflection. The sight made her stop dead in her tracks. For the first time since the transformation, she looked at herself without fear or disgust. The glowing skin, the curves, the new strength that pulsed beneath her. The changes were undeniable. But instead of shrinking from them, something inside her shifted. She had been running from who she had become, hiding away from the world, afraid of how others saw her. But what if she stopped running? What if she learned to accept these changes, these parts of herself that she couldn't control? What if, instead of hiding from the world, she faced it head-on? What if she embraced her transformation, not as a curse, but as a part of who she was now? Lyra's breath caught in her throat as she continued to gaze at her reflection. Slowly, a thought began to form, quiet but persistent. What if I'm not broken? What if I'm just different? For a long time, she had believed that her worth was tied to how she looked or how others saw her. She had spent so much time trying to fit into a mold that wasn't meant for her. But maybe the truth was that she didn't have to fit anyone else's expectations. Maybe it was time to redefine herself, not in terms of who she had been before, but in terms of who she was becoming. Her eyes softened as she took a deep breath, feeling something inside her break free. For the first time in days, she smiled. Not a forced, self-conscious smile, but a real one. She was not a freak. She was not a mistake. She was Lyra, and her transformation didn't define her. How she handled it did. The door behind her slid open and Dr. Thompson stepped into the hallway, his eyes scanning the empty space until they fell on her. There was a brief moment of hesitation, but then he walked toward her, his steps careful as though he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Lyra, he began softly. I know, she said, cutting him off gently. You're sorry. You didn't mean for this to happen. I understand that. He nodded, his expression full of remorse. I wish I could fix it. I wish I could take back the experiment, but Lyra raised a hand to stop him. I'm not asking you to fix me. I don't need fixing. I just need to learn how to live with this new version of myself. Dr. Thompson blinked, surprised by her words. But how? This is a huge change, Lyra. How can you just accept it? She met his gaze, her eyes calm but resolute. It's not easy. It's never going to be easy. But I've been hiding from this change, pretending that I can go back to who I was before. The truth is I can't. This is who I am now, and maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't need to go back, maybe I just need to move forward. There was silence between them for a moment, and then Dr. Thompson smiled, a small, hesitant smile. You really have changed, haven't you? Lyra returned the smile. Maybe, but I think it's for the better. She stepped away from the window and turned toward him, her shoulders no longer hunched in shame but squared with determination. She was ready to face the world again, not as a victim of the experiment, but as someone who had emerged from the experience stronger, more resilient, and more aware of her worth. I've been feeling like I don't belong here, she continued. But maybe I do. Maybe we all do. We don't fit the expectations that the world sets for us, but that doesn't mean we don't have a place. We just have to carve it out for ourselves. Doctor. Thompson watched her, his expression softening. I'm proud of you, Lyra. It takes a lot of strength to accept something like this. I know it's been hard, but I think you've found something even more important than reversing the experiment. Lyra nodded. I've found peace. Not with what happened, but with who I am now, and that's enough. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, her movements graceful despite the heavy weight of the changes she had endured. She could still feel the eyes of others on her, the judgment that had once made her shrink into herself, but now it no longer mattered. She had found the strength within her, not in trying to fit back into the mold, but in embracing the unexpected. As she walked past Dr. Thompson, she looked up at him with a gentle smile. I'm ready to be seen, ready to be myself. Dr. Thompson nodded, his voice quiet with admiration. You've come a long way, Lyra. With that, she stepped back into the main area of the facility, her head held high, no longer running from her reflection or from the world. Her transformation, once a source of shame and confusion, had become a testament to her strength and resilience. She was no longer defined by the experiment, by her body, or by the judgment of others. She was defined by her will to move forward, to accept herself as she was. And in that moment, Lyra knew she would be okay.